to Simona again from Veriato Solutions. Thank you for tuning in today for another CyberSec Plus webinar. Let me remind you that Veriato Solutions is a leading value-added distributor of cybersecurity and innovative infrastructure solutions. Every month, we organize CyberSec Plus webinars where we address various cybersecurity topics. Today, we are going to talk about employee monitoring and how it reduces IT security and productivity risk, yet keep employee privacy. But more about that, you will hear from our presenters. Before we get started, a few reminders. The webinar will be recorded, so if you have a step away for any reason, don't you worry, we will send you the recording by the end of this week. Every one of you is muted, but if you have any questions, just write them in the Q&A box and we will get to those in the end of the webinar. We encourage you to submit all your questions during the presentations, but as I said, we will get to those in the end. So now that the housekeeping is done, I want to introduce to our presenters, Pete, Chief Marketing Officer from Veriato, and Chris, Director EMA at Veriato. So Chris, Pete, please, whenever you're ready, take it away.
Thanks, Simona. Thanks everyone for attending today. It's nice to be here and be able to speak to you. It's a subject that that right now is changing all the time, and I think you've got to reduce the risks, yet retain the privacy. That sounds hard. So what we're going to do today is have a little look at how we do that. We're going to have a little look at our organisation. We've been around for quite a while, around about 20 years actually, and in that time we've grown dramatically. We have presence in over 110 countries. We service organisations big and small, but if we think about some of the biggest by industry, then in the technology world, 5 out of 10 organisations, 5 out of the top 10 organisations use Cerebral as a platform for monitoring inside threats and productivity. In the finance world, again, 5 out of 10, including some of the biggest names you could possibly imagine. In health, 6 out of 10, and in defence, 7 out of 10. So we're very well established. An American organisation originally, and my role here is to manage Europe, the Middle East and Africa, working with Hermitage in this region in particular, to manage relationships with organisations in pretty much every vertical. 74 government agencies we count amongst our clients, and that's for a reason. They like working with us through simplicity of what we do, the fact that we have a platform that's totally customizable, and Pete is going to talk you through that. But first of all here, some of our clients are listed there. You'll see at the bottom right, and some of the awards that we've won. This year, even in the Cybersecurity Excellence Awards, we got Insider Threat Solution. So continually developing, continually building on what we have. Pete's going to show you the latest developments, but I think he's also going to show you our latest accreditation. Pete, over to you.
Yes, thanks, Chris, and good morning, everybody. Well, good afternoon to you. I'm in the U.S., so still early morning here in Florida. As Chris mentioned, we're happy to announce that we just in the last week or so were named the PCMag.com's Editor's Choice for Employee Monitoring. So we were really excited about that. This has become such a hot topic, and we'll talk more about it. And since the pandemic started, that employee monitoring has become a key tool for management in being able to monitor and work effectively with employees that are remote. No one was prepared back in February or March to have every person in their company go and work remote. People didn't have the tools in place. At first, it was a scramble to get PCs or laptops and VPNs so people could actually do the basics. But now that that's done, how do we go about actually transforming what's going on within our organizations in this new normal? So even before the pandemic, but especially since then, we've been getting so many questions. This is companies worldwide coming from all areas of the world. No one is immune. And we have business owners and managers calling us and asking these questions. Can you help us with this? They want to understand, because they can't see their people anymore. They're not with them all day long. Who's struggling as a remote employee? Some people are doing great as remote employees. Some people are having a really hard time with it. They want to know, is anyone stealing from me? Who's working really hard and who's barely working? Who's taking advantage of this in a bad way? They're going and playing golf or going to the beach instead of doing the work they should be. No one knows, because no one can see into their kitchen or spare bedroom every day. Bottom line is, what are my people doing all day? In the 2 hours and 53 minutes that's there in the center, that in a global HR human resource survey was the average time that people said that they were productive within an 8-hour day. So 2 hours and 53 minutes out of an 8-hour work day, which is pretty shocking. And it's even more shocking when you realize that this was the number pre-pandemic. So this is when they were in the office all day. They were wasting time doing all kinds of other things, even with their boss being just around the corner or in the next office or the next cube. So now that we get in a situation where everyone's remote, all of these questions are that much more important. And as we put a title on the presentation called "Empowering Workforce Transformation," because as people and companies are changing the way they do business, and everyone realizes that we're never going to go back to the way we were for the most part. Most companies are going to either be completely remote or a hybrid situation. Some people in the office, some people remote. There's so many advantages to that. And this big test over the last 6, 7, 8 months that we've been doing this has proved that, yeah, most companies can run with people being remote. So if that's the case, and if it's the case with your company, after 6 months, people are saying, all right, we really need to think about the core fundamentals of the company, because we're transforming them. The company is not the way it's run for the last 20 years. It's going to be different next year, even when things go back to normal. So what are the tools that we need to effectively manage a business as we transform into this new normal? And that's where Veriato Cerebral comes in. And if I was to be talking to you back in, say, last January or February, I would have been spending almost all of my time talking about insider threat security. That's where we started, and that's what the core of Cerebral was designed to do. Although it could do a lot of other things, most people were concerned with insider threat security. That's in financial term, in a financial corporation, it could be worrying about fraud, people stealing insurance money, could be protecting critical data, intellectual property. It could be making sure that no one was taking healthcare records or credit card numbers. We've all heard about these huge breaches, and many, many times when there is a big breach of important data, it comes because there is someone inside the company who's part of that. So the ability to analyze and work to determine if there is a threat and where the threat is really important. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But since the pandemic, a couple new areas have really come to light. What we just talked about, productivity and engagement. How engaged are people now that they're not in the office every day? They're not sitting next to their boss every day. Are they pulling away from the company? Are they a flight risk? Maybe they're now searching, they're spending half of their day online looking for a new job. Do you know? Is there any way for you to know that? And the last area is compliance. And I'll take you through that, but we're getting a lot of calls from companies, and because when all of a sudden their employees went and were not working in their headquarters, within their firewall, within their corporate network, and were now depending upon their home network, suddenly those companies were out of compliance. They couldn't prove that the data is safe and secure. So we're going to take you through all three of these areas so you understand the full capabilities of Cerebral and how it can help you transform your corporation. So let me just start and tell you just at a very, very high level how Cerebral works. So it's a software product. So there is no hardware required. You will have a central management console where you'll be able to manage all the information from all of the PCs, Macs, and Androids that your employees are using. On each of those endpoints, as we call them, whether it's a Mac PC or an Android, a Veriato agent will get deployed from the central console. And this can be deployed whether that person is in the office or remote. The Veriato agent that will go on to a person's computer, you can do it in two different ways. You can do it in a stealth mode so that the person does not realize that that monitoring agent is on the PC, which is really important. Say if you're in a financial institution, it's a security concern. You want to be able to identify fraud rings, someone stealing money, stealing client data. Security in the ability to do it in a stealth manner is exceedingly important. But you can also put it out there so that people know. And if you're just concerned with productivity and working with people, you can let people know, hey, we're monitoring. This is part of the new norm. We're going to let you stay at home, but everybody is going to have a productivity report every week. So you can, it really is up to your company on how you deploy it and what's the best solution for you. And also I want to say that all of the information that we gather, as you notice over on the left-hand side where it has the management and the management console and the database, it's called the SQL Server database where all the information is kept. That is kept by you. That's not us. We don't have any access to that. We don't see any of the information. It's all completely internal. So you never have to have concerns about it, being accessed by anybody else. It's in control of you, your IT department, or maybe your service provider who's helping you. But that's it. And when that agent gets deployed onto an employee's computer, what it does, it starts watching everything. And I say, it's not us that's watching, or it's not even actually you that's watching. It's the artificial intelligence. It's watching everything that's going on every computer in your company 24/7, 365. And when I say it's watching everything people are doing, social media, applications they're using, instant messages and chats, network access, unusual behaviors, and we'll talk more about that, emails, file movement, websites, what people are printing, what they're putting onto USB sticks, uploads, downloads, keystrokes, and even for Androids, geofencing. So where is that, did an Android phone leave a certain area when it was supposed to? Someone's supposed to be on a job in one city, but all of a sudden they're in another city. Why is that happening? Again, really important when people are not physically in the same building together. And one of the things when we're talking about empowering corporations is knowledge is power. If you're sitting there blind, it's very hard to be able to react. It's hard to see who's struggling, who's having problems, and who isn't. It's hard to have the metrics around that to understand who's doing well, which office is having a problem, which office is not. So with that, with all of that detailed information that the artificial intelligence is looking at, we're able to pull key pieces of information out of that include productivity and engagement, as well as security and compliance. And if it is a security situation especially, we also have the screenshots that would back that up. So if someone was stealing all of the credit card numbers, for example, and you needed to go to law enforcement to bring the police in on a situation, you would actually have the evidence that would show that person stealing your client, your sensitive data. So let's talk first about productivity and engagement. So if you're like most companies that we're dealing with, and like I said, we're dealing with thousands of companies around the world right now, and since the pandemic has started and everyone sent their employees home, there's been a huge influx of companies that are calling us to see if we can help. And what the concerns for most business owners and general managers, group managers, fall in the three categories on the left. Productivity, what are my people doing all day? Are they working on the spreadsheet that they're supposed to be doing in Excel, or are they watching a Netflix movie all afternoon. Cohesion. We're not together. Physically, we're separated. The group is not together anymore. But do the people still feel tied to the company? Or are they spending half the day looking for a new job? That's important to know. And maybe you just need to do a better job if you have the signals that say, yeah, cohesion's breaking down. I see a lot of people are pulling away from the company. Well, maybe it's better communication. Maybe we're having virtual, happy hours at the end of the day, every Friday, and communicating, having one-on-one meetings. So without the knowledge, it's very hard for you to react and fix problems in your business. And then lastly, metrics. How do you prove this? I mean, you just feel like everyone's doing okay at home? Well, maybe you have 3 regional offices, and maybe 2 of the offices are doing well, but that 3rd office is not doing great. Well, maybe that regional office manager, he's not great at communicating with his people out in the field. He was great when they sat next to him and he could walk over and talk to them, but when they're separated, he's not so good at that. So do you have the metrics that can show productivity in one office versus the other? Who's doing well, who needs help? So when Cerebral gets deployed, it's going to allow you to track, analyze, and record all the user activity, whether they're at home or in the office. And again, it's not us tracking it. It's not even you personally tracking it. It's the artificial intelligence that's tracking it. And from there, we're just able to pull information like daily productivity reports. What are people doing all day? We'll show you those in just a minute. A lot of people have questions about privacy. Cerebral gives you very fine-grained control over who and what is being monitored. So it may be that the only thing you want to monitor, you don't want to monitor chats or instant messages. You don't want to monitor what people are doing, say on websites or doing web searches. You only want to see what applications they're using during the day. I know that if my people in the accounting department, the finance department are using Excel spreadsheets and payroll system and email for 4, 5, 6 hours a day, I know they're there, they're working hard. We know they have phone calls and so forth, but I don't care about the rest of it. I just want to know that they're using our core business applications. And if they are, then we know they're good. So Cerebral lets you monitor as much or as little as you want to. And the last thing that Cerebral does is it looks at what the mood, what the sentiment is of the employees. We use language analysis called psycholinguistics. So when people are writing emails, the way they use language is very important. And as people disengage from a company, their use of language changes very subtly. Instead of saying, when they're talking about the company, instead of saying us or we do this, they start saying things like they. That's just a simple example. Also, it's the way people communicate within their own groups. So if I'm in the customer service group, I communicate with my peers in a certain way back and forth. We use certain language types. Now, when I'm communicating with my peers, I write differently than when I'm communicating with my manager. And I also communicate differently and I write differently from both of those when I'm communicating with a customer. So language really is a big window into how people are communicating. And if you start to break down, if your communication within your group starts to separate, there may be a problem there. And we all know that everybody is under extra stress right now. They're working from home for the most part. They may have illness because of the pandemic. Their spouse may have lost a job. Kids may not be at school, so they're running around. You're trying to figure it out. There's a lot of things that are going on in people's lives that are very unusual. But if you get some signals that think, this person's pulling away from the company, then you can take action to step in and make sure things are okay and maybe help them out and keep them as a good employee for you. Here's an example of some of the reports that we can give you. So this is a very simple one, active time versus idle time. So the light blue areas indicate when someone is logged in and they're active. The dark blue shows that they're logged in, but they're inactive. So as you can see, most people in the company log in around 9 o'clock and they're done with work somewhere around 3 o'clock. That's their normal daily schedule. And most people are working. Looks like this person maybe had a meeting or some phone calls in the afternoon. They're still logged in. They did log off about 3 o'clock, but they were doing something other than being active on their computer between 2 and 3. However, I think that was Eric. That was Eric up there. But now we have Sam down here. He logged in very early. He logged in first right before 8 o'clock, and then again he was active just after 8 o'clock, maybe checking email. But then for the whole rest of the day, Sam was inactive on his computer. He was not using his laptop all day. So my guess is that he logged in at around 8, checked his email because he had a golf tee time at 9 o'clock and needed to leave by 8:15 to get to the golf course, and was golfing for the rest of the day. So this is just a very simple, high level, what people are active in the company and what people are not. We can take it a step deeper and take a look at exactly what people are doing. So in this example is an accounting department weekly summary. And we know that our people in our accounting department should be using QuickBooks, Outlook, and ADP. Those are the normal things that they would be using on a daily basis, and most people are. And you can see how many hours a day that they're using their different applications. Everyone except for Sean down here. Sean is using a couple extra applications, and he's doing that for almost a day and a half out of the 5-day work week. So other than the normal accounting applications, Sean is playing World of Warcraft and one of his favorite games, which is Plants vs. Zombies. So those are some pretty important things for a manager to understand. Who's doing the work and who's only pretending to be doing the work. Now, if we want to take a look deeper into Sean, because we have a little concern here, he's spending a lot of time playing games and not working, you can pull up a complete summary of everything he did for the week. How long he spent web surfing, what was he doing online searches, time he spent chatting, applications, keywords that he's triggered. Maybe he's doing some things that he shouldn't be doing, going in areas he shouldn't, and he's triggering keywords for sensitive documents that he shouldn't be looking at. Details on his emails, file transfers, connections, documents that he's using throughout the week. And then you can even get deeper. If you have real concerns that Sean, you want to find out what's going on here. These are some pretty unusual activities and behaviors for someone in the accounting group. You can go in and get the detail by day and actually minute by minute exactly what he's doing. And when you start to get into areas where someone is having a real problem, it could be from a productivity and a HR perspective. So maybe you're considering, you're going to have to fire Sean because he's not being productive. He's doing the wrong things. Well, this day, minute by minute log provides you with the detail that you need to effectively go to him and legally fire him because you have all the records of the work he wasn't doing during the workday. Also, from a security perspective, we'll talk to you more about that. These are the specific logs that, not only was Sean playing games all day, he was going into the credit card database and downloading files for customer credit card information, which obviously was notorious. He was doing something, stealing data, and that may even be a legal situation where you need the police involved. And again, you have all the detail to prove that. Compliance is something that by probably May or June, we started to notice a big increase in customers and in brand new companies coming to us and asking us for help with compliance. I'm going to show you an example, and I think it will become pretty clear for you. Working remotely can become a nightmare if you're in a regulated industry, financial, healthcare, legal, government, or just dealing with GDPR in general. So in the example we hear, let's talk about a healthcare. This is, say, a hospital or a large doctor's office. Now, the people that do all of the medical billing and insurance and the money management portion from the company, they've all been sent home. They're working at their house. So what do? Every morning they get a cup of coffee, they open their laptop, they go onto the VPN, and they pull all of the data, all of the records from the hospital from everybody that was discharged from the hospital yesterday, so they can then put in the proper government records and the insurance records. And they do have very critical and valuable and sensitive data that is highly regulated because it is patient information. The problem becomes for the corporation, the hospital, is if that person sitting at their kitchen table with all this information on their laptop goes into the bottom right-hand corner and they disconnect from the VPN. All of a sudden, now the hospital is in violation because they have no visibility at all into what that person is doing with all those patient records. Could be doing anything with them. Hospital has no idea. They have no way to track that. Now, this could be financial information, GDPR information, personal information of clients, legal information, it could be anything. This is just obviously the hospital example. So with Veriato, we can help with that so that you do not go out of compliance. So although we can use a VPN, we are not dependent on a VPN. We can also set up a URL, a private URL, so you can communicate back to that Veriato home base within the hospital. So that server where you're managing all of Veriato from. And that information, regardless of whether the VPN is on or off, as long as the person is online, is still going to go up through the URL, through the cloud, through the internet. It's all encrypted, and it's going to go, and it will still be back there at the hospital for all your compliance records. Now, you might say, well, what happens if they unplug their Wi-Fi at their house? They disconnect from the cable, the internet provider. Well, then are you out of compliance? And the answer is no, because Veriato is always recording. It is on the endpoint. It's not network dependent. So because it's always, so for instance, if this is Chris and he's working from his house, the Veriato agent is recording everything that he's doing, whether he's on any kind of network or off, completely off any network at all. And as soon as that person connects back in via VPN or from the website, all that information is going to be pulled back. And remember those detailed logs minute by minute. So you can prove to whoever you need to prove, and you can pull those reports in a lot of different ways. Because it's a SQL database, you can really pull them in infinite kinds of ways for your compliance needs. So even when people are scattered all across a city or a country or the world, you can still maintain compliance without them being within your firewall. And the last area we want to talk about is insider threat security. So for the last 20 years, your company has run with your headquarters and all your employees came to your company. And of course, you were dealing with a lot of sensitive documents that were within the company, and that was fine because you had built a great infrastructure or outer network of security. You had firewalls, you had antivirus, you have all kinds of security measures to make sure that everything was secure within your environment. However, back last February and March, you sent everybody home. And what happens then is, of course, you are outside the corporate firewall. You're outside the corporate security network, and now you're depending upon all of your client security at their home, what they normally use with their kids. And by the way, it's not just your employee who's sitting on that network at the house with all the sensitive data. It's also that employee's spouse, maybe other relatives, their kids. So it's a network that's being used by all these different people, and the company has no control over that. So from that viewpoint, virtually every corporation in the world has had the risk footprint that they're trying to cover and manage and keep secure has expanded in a massive way. It's now not one company or 3 regional offices. You're talking about tens or hundreds of thousands of locations that you only have partial control. And virtually everybody's saying that the work world is not going to return to that, hey, everybody's going to come back to headquarters every day world. Most companies are going to be going either into a fully remote world or a hybrid world where some people work in different offices and some people work at home, and a combination. So this world is here to stay. So how do we make sure we have the tools to protect the data when it's sitting out there in people's bedrooms and kitchens and laptops all over the world? And obviously, because you don't have full control, priority on security is not like it is with what it is in your offices. And because of this, just even in the last 6 months, it's almost 25% of companies have experienced an increase in incidents since the pandemic and everybody has gone to work from home. And those are only the incidents we know. If you're not good at tracking, you really have no way of knowing what your percentage of security risk has gone up. Sometimes it's accidental, sometimes it's malicious, but regardless, it's that valuable data of your clients or your intellectual property of your company that needs to stay secure. And it's a risky proposition when it's out there in people's houses. And again, that's where Cerebral comes in, because you're watching everything that's going on at those employees' PCs, regardless of where the PC is. We combine user behavior analytics, that's the AI that's watching and analyzing everything. We use user activity monitoring, that's the recording of the screenshots so you can see exactly what's going on if there is a security breach, and risk scoring, and I'll tell you about that in a little bit. Just to let you know about the AI and user behavior analytics, what happens is our system, just like your fingerprint, everybody's use of a computer is unique. The way you do it is the way you open your emails, how many windows you have open, how much you browse on the web. All that data is unique, and it creates a unique fingerprint for you. It's basically your PC use fingerprint. And that's what Cerebral will do. The AI, it takes about 21 days to do that, and it will create this fingerprint so that it knows who you are and what your normal behaviors are. And it's then going to start tracking all of your employees against their normal behaviors. Not only will it track it against their normal behaviors, looking for something that's unusual, looking for abnormal behaviors, but it will also be comparing them not only to their normal self, but it's going to be comparing them to other people in the group you assign them to. So people in the customer service team should all be doing the same kind of things generally. If all of a sudden one person is going out to the credit card server and downloading a lot of credit card numbers, well, that's pretty unusual. That's going to set off a warning and an alert. So that's what Cerebral is doing. It's always watching for unusual and risky behaviors. And that's kind of what this is showing you. Number one, it's on every laptop, PC, Mac, watching 24/7, 365. And the AI is analyzing it. When it sees something unusual, it's going to send you an alert to let you know, hey, you need to check into this. And because you're able to actually go back in time and look at the screenshots, very quickly you can react to it. It's not like you're sitting there looking at network logs and trying to figure out what happened. You can see exactly what that person did. And that's what the video playback is all about. So I'll use an example. Chris works in the customer service department. He downloaded 1 million credit card numbers of your clients. He downloaded that huge file. That immediately set off an alert. And now Chris can, your IT person, your IT security, your general manager can go. He did this at 9 in the morning. Let's go back to 8:30 and watch everything that Chris did. And we can watch him and play it back just like we're watching a video. And we'll play back all Chris. He's checking the football scores. Now you see him starting that download. You're actually watching his screen and seeing what's happening, and you see him download all of that information. Well, is he working on a big report, or is he trying to steal it? He's offloading that to a thumb drive, a USB stick, so he can take it away. That would be a big, big security problem. But you're able to figure this out in minutes. It doesn't take weeks or days or months. And then we also provide your IT department and IT security the ability to preemptively look at problems. And that's where risk scoring comes in. This is a risk dashboard. I'm going to show it to you. And when you see a problem, you can delve down and see the details on any person. Let me just blow that up for you. So you can see if you have 50 people in your company, well, these 6 people in the red, those are the people that Cerebral is saying are at the highest risk of they're exhibiting the most risky behavior. Now, it might be very accidental, So maybe Tom is doing something accidentally, but it's still causing a big risk to your data. This is going to identify that before a big breach happens. Now, Chris, we know Chris, he's a bit of a criminal, and he may be trying to steal it. This is an early warning system for that. So it really lets your IT people focus in on areas of risk before something bad happens. It's looking at everybody all the time, and it will give you the complete list. But the red area is where you want to concentrate. And so with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Chris. And Chris, are you going to show a couple screens?
Yeah, I'm still getting over the fact that I might be a criminal, to be honest, Pete. But
well, we knew you were a little shady, so.
Yeah. So what I'm briefly going to do is just turn over to something else. So here we go. So what I really want to talk to you about, two things here. One is that this entire system is a closed circuit. So what you're seeing here is your data. Nobody else can see that data. It's not shared. Veriato don't have access, and Hermitage don't have access. This is your data. You own it, and it means that you're compliant. You're only going to interrogate data because the risk of scoring and the alerts have told you to. And as an organisation, you're going to have specific demands. Now, Pete's touched on, things like productivity, compliance, security, and each of those will be more important, in turn for different organisations. So what we've done is we've made Cerebral very, very customisable. So what we're going to look at here is just how easy it is really to record different things for different people. You can set policies for individuals, for groups, or for the entire workforce in one go. And what we're just going to have a quick look at here is how we do that. So we've got all Windows devices, and we're going to pick those, and we're going to understand now exactly what we can and can't record. Now, I'm suffering bandwidth issues today, so I'm hoping very much this is suddenly going to appear. But what it is going to tell me is I can turn on and off things like instant messaging. I can turn on and off looking at BitTorrent, people uploading, downloading videos. I can be looking at attachments. Have people got attachments open or closed? I could be looking at things like if somebody is using a key drive, a USB, to download information or even upload information, I'm going to get an alert for that. So one of the first things you're going to do is set the policies in relation to what you as an organisation want to record. And that's key. That's really, really important, because it means it's not just a one-dimensional piece where it's the same for everyone. It means you as an organisation get to see what you need and get alerted to that. Keywords, importantly for keywords too, you can have your own set of keywords. We supply this solution with a huge dictionary of keywords and phrases, but actually there'll be certain phrases and keywords that are relevant to your organisation, either vertically or geographically. This includes colloquialisms, so swear words, I guess. If one day Pete and I are having a conversation and everything's very much above board in an email, it's "Dear Pete, how are you? I want to talk to you about how we're moving things forward on a particular project." And a week later, I'm talking to Pete, and actually the conversation is, "Yeah, dude," or "Yeah, mate, yeah, probably not going to happen." Then alerting someone to that fact is showing them that perhaps a relationship has deteriorated, or there's disengagement. Maybe I'm no longer friends with Pete. Maybe I'm not really buying into what a company's trying to do. So that change of language is key to me. So here we have the screen I'm looking for, and I can turn on what is recorded, I can turn on if we want to block things. So websites visited, I can create whitelists and blacklists. I can turn on a chat or IM activity. Maybe that's around chatting through LinkedIn. Some organizations let you use LinkedIn, others not.
So Chris, with what you just did there by on the chat, you've told the system, hey, I don't want to analyze and record chats anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm saying I can either have chat on, I can have it off, or I can block it. If we're going to record it, if we're going to record websites visited, we do that here. We turn it on or off here. Email activity. This can be down to whether or not it's going out of the business. Are we recording emails within? Are we recording emails that actually leave and go off to Google accounts, for instance? We're going to be looking at files transfer. Do we want to record files transfer? Do we want to alert on the fact that somebody is sending information out? Maybe it's a document containing a sales ledger, as Pete alluded to previously. Maybe it's something like a proof of concept. Maybe it's something like a tender response. All sorts of things here. We've got to think carefully about what we as a business, or you as a business, need to actually see. So, are people actively going after programs that maybe they shouldn't do? Are we recording that? Document tracking, version control. So right here, we've got the ability to turn things on or off, not just by individual segments and settings, but also when it's on. Is it on during working hours? Are we recording 24/7? Do we record, do we record everything that someone does, or is it a partial recording? So we've got the ability to turn absolutely everything within the solution on or off. And what we're going to do is send you out a trial version of this, so you can all actually have a play. I think Simon will send this out to you as part of a follow-up, and you can see for yourselves exactly what is possible with Cerebral. So being conscious for time, I'm going to fire myself back now to Simona. Simona, are you there?